My childhood, growing up in Iowa, well, I don't think it mattered that I grew up in Iowa. My childhood in general was very chaotic. I actually grew up in an alcoholic household, so it was very volatile and unpredictable. So there were definitely challenges with that, and whether it was Iowa or Las Vegas, I don't think there would have been much difference to that. Yes, I am structured because of the way that I was raised. There was definitely a right and a wrong, and you didn't want to do wrong. So you were very, mechanical in what you did and what you said and all of that. So structure, I definitely feel, came from that upbringing. Ooh, you know what? It's going to depend on which one you talk to. My oldest, my daughter, is very structured. She's very like me, and she gets frustrated when things are not structured. Our son is very unstructured. He's like his mother, and he's a free spirit and just goes with the flow. And I see the advantages of both. There's part of me that would really like to be less structured and have more of the ability to just go with the flow. Yet I also realize that structure does benefit different circumstances, and so there are times when we rely on the structure that I and my daughter have as opposed to the freeness that my son and wife have. I do want to let my hair down. The problem is I don't know how. So it's funny, I tease my wife all the time because she always encourages me to have a drink because she feels a drink gets me out of my own way. And so I tease her that she's the only wife that is encouraging her husband to become an alcoholic. But, there's definitely a problem with me knowing how to let go and be okay with that and feeling like it's okay. Regina and I were looking for a house, and we were down to the wire, and she was out all day looking at houses while I was at work, and then she'd have me swing by and look at them, and I would walk in and immediately go, I don't like it. And we'd go to the next one, I don't like it. And she kept going, well, what is it that you're looking for? And she kept getting more and more frustrated, feeling like she was doing all this work, and I was just coming in and shooting it down immediately. And I couldn't tell her what it was. I just said, it doesn't feel right to me. And so when she got to the end of her rope, we went to our therapist that we've used for many, many years, and she said, I've had it. He can find his own house. Me and the kids will go and find our own house. I just can't do it. Blah, blah, blah. She's telling it in the story. And so the therapist looked at me and said, do you know what you're looking for? And I said, I don't. I just know that it doesn't feel right. And she said, you're looking for safe. And I just started bawling. And again, she said, you never felt safe in your own home as a child. And so when you walk in, you're immediately looking for a way out. And if you don't feel like there's a way to get out, you don't want to be there. And so that was one of those moments where it gave some insight into me, and it also allowed my wife to realize I'm just not being a jerk and discounting all the work that she's doing. There was a real need for me to have a different environment than what she was finding, and it allowed her to see what it was that I needed. So then she could look at a place and go, okay, this is open. he feels comfortable because there's enough room for him to run if he has to. I think I probably overprotected my children, and I've done them a disservice because that overprotection prevented me from allowing them to be kind of kids that kids need to be and things like that. I wanted to keep them safe and not allow them to do this and not allow them to do that so that they didn't get hurt or taken advantage of or whatever, or that fear of that happening to them. And now looking back, I wish I would have lightened up a little bit, because especially with my daughter, I think she's a little too afraid to then branch out. She has a tendency to she doesn't want to go into a convenience store herself, will you come in with me? And it's just like, honey, you're 16 years old. You're going to have to be able to go in and buy a candy bar. But if something happened to my children because of a choice that I made to loosen up the reins, I don't think I could have recovered from that. So it's one of those things where I don't know which one's right or wrong. But I definitely want my kids to feel safe with me, and I want them to feel safe in our home and be safe in the world. Art runs in my family. I have an uncle who's a professional artist. My grandfather is very artistic and creative. My mother was very artistic, and I tend to have that creative gene as well, I guess I'll say. So I always wanted to be an architect, and that's one of my, biggest regrets, in life. I allowed myself to be talked out of that by my parent. My dad always told me you can't make a living being an architect. Now, granted, that was 40 years ago. Obviously, you can look at architecture today and realize that it's, a great industry. But at that point, kept saying you can't make a living, you can't support yourself, you don't want to do that, you want to be a doctor, you want to do this. And so I got talked out of that. And I can still to this day sit here and go, wow, I wish I would have went with what I knew I wanted to do, stuck with that, because it's just something that I still think that creative aspect being incorporated into a job that I do is something that I think would be fantastic to have. And that's something I try to tell my kids and steer them in the right direction. Don't choose a career because you think you're going to be financially successful in it. Choose a career that you're going to love doing, and you'll be financially successful at it. Because I truly believe that when your heart's into it, you're going to be successful at it. But if you're just doing it for the money, at some point it just doesn't feed you anymore, and then you're kind of locked into that. So hopefully they'll get that lesson and do what they love. I would love to have the opportunity to be me and follow my passion. But again, it's that structuredness, I think, that comes into play, and my sense of responsibility that even though my children are getting older, graduating, things like that, I think I'll always have to be there for them. I always have a sense of responsibility towards my wife as well. And I'm not in a position, or I don't feel that I'm in a position to where I can make choices for myself, or just for myself, because they affect everybody else that's along for the ride with me. And so out of that sense of responsibility, I have to focus on, okay, how is this going to affect them? And so again, I think I get stuck in that responsibility and don't allow myself the freedom to move in this direction. logically, I know that I can make a choice and move in that direction and get through it. I really haven't had a difficult adult life as far as keeping jobs or, making enough money to support my family and stuff like that. So logically, I know I should be able to make a choice and shift. It's that subconscious part of me that, again, ties into the right or the wrong. And there's only one right answer and everything else is wrong. And that fear of not picking the right choice and then having that affect my family that I feel responsible for, that's what keeps me stuck and not able to follow a passion or make this life change. So it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. For me to get into an interracial relationship was never a second thought for me. And it was actually funny, I think when we got into, initially started dating, like Regina said now, before she met my mother, she's like, have you told your mother I'm black? And I'm like, no. It wasn't even a thought of me to tell my mother that the girl that I'm seeing is black, because to me, I didn't think it would be an issue, and it wasn't. And it's funny because my wife's family gave me more of a hard time, and it made her feel bad because my family treated her so well and just openly embraced her coming into our family that it did make her feel a little uncomfortable. But for us, just to me it wasn't an issue. And truthfully, if it was with my family knows me well enough to know that I'm not going to make a choice based off of what they thought or how they felt. But again, I knew it wasn't going to be an issue anyway, so. We did discuss having interracial children and raising them because my wife had such a hard time. Now, my wife is biracial as well, so she's half black and half white. And her growing up was very challenging, not only from kids at school and, white kids didn't like her because she was black, and black kids didn't like her because she was white, and we had to discuss that. And that was one of my questions to her when we decided to have children, is how do you feel about bringing more biracial children into the world when you struggled so much? And she really thought about that and felt like, one, it's a different time, but also two, that she was going to be able to help support them through that. Now, she was biracial, but she was raised by her white side of the family. So she didn't have any influences from the black side of her family to help support her in those issues that were coming up, those racial issues that were coming up. And of course, I think us white people don't really understand the effects of that racism. And I mean, you can see it, but you don't feel it the same way that somebody is that's experiencing that. So for her, she felt like, I've been through this, I've done this. So even if they do experience that, I can at least help support them through that. When I went home and told my mom, she couldn't help me through that because she couldn't understand what racism was about. I would hope that the young me seeing this video would think that, you know what, I turned out okay. You know, it's part of my growth process, I guess. You know, I went through so many feelings of being wrong and not good enough and constantly fighting to be better than who I was, to make somebody else happier, and things like that. So I would just hope that the younger me would see me now and go, you know what, he's grown a lot and he's okay, just the way he is.
Is he safe?
I am safe. I am safe now. I'm Jim Hull, and this is my chapter and verse.